So good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve Smith. I am the Executive Director of the Cape Cod Technology Council, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to a beautiful March day in May on Cape Cod. But that's what we get used to, right? So we're really thrilled, for First Friday this month to have the president of Savant, J.C. Murphy. He's a local resident, founded a number of businesses, worked out here, and he's talking about some topics that are very relevant to us all today, particularly here on the Cape. I'd like to start off by thanking our sustaining sponsors, Cape Cod 5, Cape Light Compact, and Open Cape, and most especially for the host of today's wonderful venue, Cape Cod Community College, who's provided the great breakfast as well as the space and equipment. And with that, I'd like to introduce J.C. Murphy. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everybody. So I think I'm going to start here and walk around. And Stephen, thank you for that introduction. And it's great to see everybody in the room here. Again, my name's J.C. Murphy. I'm the president at Savant, and I'm a wash ashore. But thankfully, my wife and I moved down here for the first tech venture started by Bob Madonna called Excel Switching in 1994. And I'm happy to report that 3 of the 4 Murphy boys were born at Cape Cod Hospital. So as they travel around and have their careers, they can say they aren't wash ashores like their parents and like I am. But today I just wanted to give the group some exposure to, the Savant, what Savant is doing here from a technology perspective, but really zeroed in on the renewable space, and impart some information that we've got relative to sustainability, renewables, and what's really driving that for both individual homeowners and individual business owners. Okay, all right. So Savant, it's a company headquartered here on Cape Cod. It's a, I would say it's a interesting tech venture that started in 2015. Okay, and just some stats about kind of like what the company is all about. But basically, think about Savant as the culmination of smart home and smart energy. In the middle of the pandemic, we had an opportunity to acquire GE Lighting. So that's if you didn't know the Savant brand, you're familiar with the GE Lighting brand. GE Lighting basically, and GE as a corporation, decided many years ago to get out of the direct-to-consumer product businesses like appliances, like light bulbs, and we had an opportunity to carve GE Lighting out of the big parent, and we run that basically as a separate entity, utilizing the team, the technology for our smart home and our smart energy offer. There's a couple more interesting stats. We basically have retail footprint for our lighting products in over 50,000 locations in North America. There's about 600 professionals inside of Savant. We're mainly located out of the Cape and out of Cleveland, Ohio, Mila Park, really the foundation of lighting, right? We have Thomas Edison's light bulb in the museum now. Other interesting things, we predominantly do, the business that we predominantly do is probably 75% of our technology ends up in a residential environment. About 25% of the technology ends up in some type of commercial environment. And again, the focus I want to zero in on is really the culmination of what's driving our mission in terms of our focus on smart energy as a connection to smart IoT technology in buildings and in homes. So if you think about it, the light bulb was the first smart home technology product. Right? Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, and it was really the first smart home technology ever. And think about what's happened in the last 100 years in terms of IoT and connected devices in the home. And what we're really zeroed in on is basically, if you think about a home or you think about a building, there's been an explosion in IoT devices. We were chatting about the need for great network infrastructure. But we've really spent over the last 6 years, we spent a lot of time focusing on what we think is foundational to smart building and smart home, which is a technology category called smart power. And this started right here on Cape Cod when we tried to take a home completely off the grid. And I realized that you had a speaker recently from the power company and talking about the challenges in terms of the grid. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as it's tied to the opportunity here for businesses and homeowners. But when we tried to take this home off the grid right over in Osterville, we put solar on the roof and quickly realized that when the power went out, we couldn't use the solar. Okay, then what do I do? So we bought a couple Tesla cars, took the batteries out of them and tried to connect, this is 7 years ago, tried to connect the solar through a hybrid inverter into the battery, so the battery was there when the power went out, just like the generator would have been there when the power went out. So that really started our journey 6 years ago to try to figure out what's really required in order to make this more usable and widespread across the US. Because our background was all from telecommunications. And I was talking to somebody earlier about what happened in telecom. The telecommunications infrastructure shifted from time division multiplexing all over to IP. And when that shift happened, what happened was basically it went from centralized telecommunications infrastructure, right? Out of a central office, telephone lines going everywhere, awesome, to a distributed architecture that was cloud-based and putting computing processing power closer to the edge, right? So then we had IP networks and the rest is history. The same exact phenomenon is happening with the power infrastructure. We have power plants, right? It's pushing power out to buildings and homes. It has to cover long distances, whether that power is renewable power or coal generator power or nuclear power, I don't care. But it's got to be, it's centrally located and it's being pushed out to long distances. The transition that's happening is power is going to move to the edge, the power creation and the power storage. And it's an exact replica of what we saw the big transition in the telecommunications industry. So our focus is really that power needs to be the foundation of a building plan and of the plan for a home. Because if you don't have reliable, sustainable power, everything else on the back side of that is not going to work. Make sense? Okay. Who has solar on their home? And who's ever deployed a generator in a home? And does anybody have battery backup in their home? Okay. So when you walk into this building, there's a big Kohler generator, right? When does that Kohler generator go on? When there's a power outage. It's just sitting there, right? Storm comes through, we lose power for whatever, the generator pops on. Right? Just remember that concept for a second. So the big tech innovation that happened on the Cape as we were trying to get this home off the grid was basically we realized, wow, if I have a source of power that is not the power grid, it's a combination of solar and I'm storing it on the battery, I better figure out how much demand I have from the house. Now, electricity is like the air we breathe. Right? Nobody even thinks about it. You just walk into homes and buildings, you just turn stuff on. Right? We have it's just like it's just there. Like the electricity's there. It's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be always there. And we have no visibility into how much energy we're consuming either in this building, let alone at a device or an appliance level. So then we attack this problem at the source. We said, well, wait a minute, what's the main source of where you get that information from? And it's your circuit breaker panel. So we're literally looking at the circuit breaker panel and talk about a dumb box. Here we are, we're smart tech folks, but go in your home today and look at all of your technology. Your toaster has more capability in it from an IoT perspective, probably than your circuit breaker panel. Yet, the circuit breaker panel is the gateway to powering your whole gosh darn home, and you have no visibility into it. You know, anybody an electrician? All right, so I have family members electricians, so I can joke about them. But like, open up that circuit breaker, and there's some scribble from some left-handed electrician that like you can't read anything, right? You don't know what any of these circuit breakers go to. God forbid if there's a problem, it doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you anything. So who's deployed a generator? Okay. So, is there any builders in the home, in the room? Anybody in the building? Okay, so I won't offend them. But I had the great fortune of buying a home up in Atkinson, New Hampshire, from a builder. Right, everyone buys homes from a builder, but it was a home that the builder built for his family. So, like buying a home from a builder, there's some really awesome stuff, and there's some stuff going, what the heck were they thinking? Well, my generator story is just that. Right? My generator story in this home was basically, first ice storm comes crashing through Atkinson, New Hampshire. Right? We're going to be out of power for 4 or 5 days at the end of the day. But Murphy family, we've got a generator. It was the builder's home. So the generator fires on, and I'm so proud because all of my other neighbors, and it's a guy thing, right? Oh, put in my house. I had a generator, just went on. Everyone's coming over to the Murphy household, and what do people want? They want to have coffee. The generator was wired into a critical load panel that was hardwired to a bunch of my critical loads. Do you think there was any outlet in the entire home that had power? No. Okay? True story, right? So we started to attack the problem at the circuit breaker level. And we said, well, what if we had the ability to monitor the amount of energy being consumed at a circuit breaker load level? And what if we could control that load and develop a flexible load technology to deal with that generator issue I had, but more importantly, to deal with the fact that you could have renewables, combination of solar and battery, right? That could be moved to any load that you needed it at any point in time. Make sense? So now you don't have a critical load panel. We deploy technology at a circuit breaker level in combination with solar and battery to set the foundation for the power plan for the home or the building. Okay? So that's the Savant piece of this. Okay? There's a lot more to it, but that's the basic element. So we're a smart home company. We've got smart power technology. We're really focused on solving this issue for buildings and homes relative to sustainable power. Right? We've got great battery and inverter technology, but the key is visibility into that load and being able to control that load. You guys had a presentation from a utility. We're currently in a pilot with a utility, to give you one other example of how this is going to impact all of us as consumers, right? We're in a pilot with a utility that has a lot of solar and wind power available to them, right? Well, this technology in home and buildings can shed load. It can shed load based on time of day, it can shed load based on the demand signal coming from the utility, right? But it also can dispatch load when the utility has inexpensive power. So this pilot that we're doing out in the Midwest, they have a ton of wind power. But you need to use the wind power when it's available, or you have to store it. So what they're offering as a tariff program to consumers is basically when they're generating a lot of wind power, they want to push that power free. It's free, but you need this technology to tell what to do with that power. It's going to charge your car. It's basically going to heat your water heater. It's going to power up your batteries. Right? So this technology basically is doing two things in that example, but it's telling which loads I can shut off, but it's also telling which loads this free power should be going to. So this is some stats that are really kind of guiding a lot of what's going on. So one stat is basically, hey, 22 million homes will have solar by 2030, right? And a third of all of those solar systems they're predicting will have battery storage to go along with it. There's 21 million homes, or 23% of the passenger vehicles are going to be plug-in electric by 2025. Does anyone have an electric car? Okay, interesting. But the big thing is that U.S. power outages from severe weather as well as the aging infrastructure are just continuing to increase, right? And we have the most amazing infrastructure on the planet, right? We were the first to do it, but there's going to be close to a $2 trillion investment by the utilities over the next several years to modernize that infrastructure. And that modernization is coming with programs specifically, go back to when I was talking about telecom, to push power generation and storage to the edge, just like we did with computer processing. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. But now, this is something that is just, time, you got to work hard and stuff like that, but timing is amazing right now for business owners, community leaders, and homeowners to really pay attention to what our government is doing in a positive way. So last year, there was the Inflation Reduction Act. This is not a political comment, but I want everybody to know there was the Inflation Reduction Act. And there was super incredible provisions in that bill pointed at sustainability and renewable energy. Personally, I'm a proponent of we need everything. We need all types of energy sources. So we can't go all renewable. We have to start working our way off of fossil fuels. We've got to have a modest approach to it. But what I want everybody in the room to know is that the government has basically done something incredible that's going to benefit business owners and homeowners, okay? And what they did is they basically they have extended a 30% residential solar credit, right? That you get year one for the installed cost of that load management technology, the battery technology, and the solar technology. So as a residential homeowner, that's available to you. And as a business owner, that's available to you in addition to accelerated depreciation on that investment. All right, now, I'm gonna go back to my generator example. The economics on this now are getting very interesting, right? For two reasons. One, we've seen a tremendous price performance increase in solar panels. Now, we don't manufacture solar panels. Lots of companies do that. It's a commodity almost now. But the performance on the solar panel today versus what it was 10 years ago is incredible. So it's gone through that big technology curve in terms of price performance. So now solar panels output lasts for 25 years, and even after 25 years, right, it's getting derated down to about 82% efficiency. So again, I'm not a solar expert, but we're just tracking the trends. We integrate into solar panels and things like that. So it's gone through its price curves. Batteries haven't yet. Batteries are still relatively expensive, but we're watching that very closely. We're heavily invested in battery, right, as a Savant offering, and we're zeroed in on a battery tech called LifePo 4. Okay, LifePo 4 is a battery tech that is around lithium iron, not ion. Okay, and we're zeroed in on that technology just because it's basically the safest around, and it's been around for a long time. This tech has been around for a long time, but it was never in the form factor that you could get it small enough. So we needed the manufacturing process to catch up so we could build cells small enough to use this LifePo 4 battery technology. And it's the battery technology that was used in big mining operations, but you could put it in 3 trailer tractors worth of stuff, and there wasn't this expense profile you had to worry about. Now we're getting LifePo 4 technology, and this is the technology that will eventually be in all of our cars near term. Okay? Had another interesting stat, I didn't put it on the board, but I think 85 or 90% of all the battery being built right now is for automotive companies. Just crazy what's going on. Anyway, so massive incentive available to you as an individual homeowner, but also to you that run your own businesses or own properties. Okay? There's additional, yes ma'am.
Just one other category, nonprofits.
Yeah.
They have the same, because they've not been in this sector before in terms of being able to benefit. And so churches and other nonprofits, are they also getting this economic?
Absolutely, but the value to them, now think about this. This is a tax credit. So in order to get a tax credit, you have to have a tax obligation, right? My dad wanted me to be a CPA, and I never went that path, but I know at least that much about it. So a nonprofit, the example of a church or a school, university, right? because they would make this investment, they would have this tax credit available that they sell to somebody that has a tax appetite. So that's how a nonprofit benefits from this. Universities are awesome candidates for renewables, right? And the reason is because of exactly that they don't have a nonprofit like that can sell that tax asset, right, to generate income. But we're doing a project down at the University of New Haven and at UConn. Most of the student and teaching population is not there in the summer. Logic, right? Schools not in the summer. But that's their maximum output for solar. And the surrounding community, what it's in New Haven, Connecticut, the surrounding community has got air conditions going in the summer and all that kind of stuff. Well, the university can sit there and generate power, so it's very symbiotic with the utility. People instinctively think that the utilities are against renewables and homes doing this. They're not. The utility loves the idea about residential homeowners or businesses offloading the grid, right? Because the utility wants to make sure that they don't have to do what? Build additional power facilities. They're just trying to keep up with the demand of that power, right? So again, I make that comment in all my speaking engagements because people think, oh, the utilities are awesome. They're slow, but they're awesome. They're not against any of this. I've not talked to an executive at utility that's like down on this. They're just trying to figure out how to get the adoption curve smooth for what they're doing. Okay, so that's the investment tax credit. The other thing that is in that provision is it's called the High Efficiency Home Rebate Act. This applies to everybody in this room. Okay? There is $6,500 available to individual homeowners to deploy efficient technology in their home. Okay? Now, you're saying, well, why haven't I heard about it? Because it was passed at the federal level. Now it's being handed to the states. And each state has to come up with how they're going to implement this rebate. Now, this is point of sale cash rebate. This is, you don't have to wait for your taxes. You don't have to have a tax appetite. This is just money that they're making available to electrify and put sustainable technology into homes. There's another provision for business owners, specifically for multi-dwelling units, think apartment buildings and apartment complexes, for owners of those properties, right, to have this incentive for because they have tenants, right? They're getting that credit as a individual property owner managing a condo complex of 100 units. Really pay attention to this. This is like 58 years old. I don't think I've ever seen anything that is so much money being pushed into the economy to do sustainable, renewable technology. This is going to be incredible, and this is going to fuel a lot of the technology adoption at a consumer level. And just watch out from your own perspective, right? Because you're going to see it being rolled out at the individual states.
A question?
Yeah.
What's the state of that in Massachusetts?
They're working on it right now.
In
Yeah.
what way?
Well, meaning they're trying to figure out the programs, right? They're trying to figure out how to implement the law, right? And basically because there's going to be tiering involved relative to like, I'm making up this comment, but they're going to say, hey, the law says that if you have a combined income in the home that's over $300,000, you're not eligible for the full rebate. So they're trying to figure out how do they implement these rebates at a retail level, right, to make sure that nobody is cheating the system. And so, but our expectation, working with our tax folks, is that you'll see most of the states having programs announced in the beginning of 2024. It's going to take them all 2023 to figure out kind of how to implement it. But by 2024, you'll see states actually with programs in place for the consumer.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You said that the battery backup technology isn't quite there yet, hasn't gone through the cost curve. Do you have any prediction when that will happen?
Yeah, I think, it's every year it's getting less expensive, but I think it's probably another 5 years,
Okay.
right, for it to really hit stride, because we've got to go through this It's the packaging, manufacturing capability. Now, the other thing that is embedded in this IRA is there's tremendous incentive for U.S. companies to start doing this in the United States. Right, so you're going to see a tremendous amount of that development going on. But that, again, building a battery factory, it's going to be $500 million. You need probably 2.5 years to get that off the ground. But there's a tremendous amount of incentive to go and do that and bring that capability in here. And again, it's going to be LiFePO4 and other battery techs that doesn't require the precious metals that you see for the current state of battery. So the basic concept here, right, graphically, of what happens, at that circuit breaker panel is this. So basically, here you are in normal use, okay, and basically in extended operation or in eco mode. Basically, what happens is that non-critical loads are basically shut off, right? The other mode that you would have, especially on Cape Cod, is called storm mode. So the system basically is smart enough to know, because it's connected to the internet, right, that, hey, I've got an impending storm heading for Cape Cod. It can automatically go into storm mode. And in storm mode, what it does is it doesn't shut down loads until the storm is coming, you're out of power. But what it does is it makes sure that your battery is fully charging. So I'm going to go back to my generator example. So I'm up in Atkinson. The worst thing that happens is that your generator goes on. Why? Because that means the power went out. The combination of load management in your battery in a residential home or in a business is used every single day. Now let me say that again. So different from a generator, I never fired up my generator every day to take my home off the grid. It's crazy, right? My generator was there when I lost power. In the renewable world, where you have battery and load management, I'm using that every single day. You say, JC, what do you mean you're using it every single day? Well, okay, during the daytime, I'm generating some solar production, right? I'm storing that on the battery or using that in my home. Great, okay? 4 o'clock rolls around, sun goes down, I've got a full battery. My battery starts to discharge. So from 9 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, I'm not on the grid. And I'm not on the grid because I'm not a guy saying stick it to the man. I'm not on the grid because why pay money if I have this investment in my home? Now, think about my $6,800 generator investment I made. You know what the return on that investment was? Probably zero, because I didn't use it every day. I only used it when my power was out. And when my power was out, it didn't even turn on my coffee maker. I screwed up the wiring diagram. Okay, so let me just go over that one more time. So think about it like this: generator, right? And I'm not against generators. There's a purpose for them. The Kohler guys are going to hate me, right? But the generator is used for emergencies. The renewable load management at the circuit breaker level, your battery and your solar, you use that every day. Every single day, this whole campus could power itself for a certain period of time under normal day operations. And then when the power goes out, because the systems are smart, it goes into storm mode, right? It basically has made sure that the batteries weren't discharged the day before under normal use because we're worried about a storm coming in. So now the battery acts like what? Your generator. That's what these systems look like by now. It's basically about this tall, right? This system right here is fine for like a modest size home, right? This is like, 2,500 to 3,500 square foot home, 200 amp service. And you can use this in combination with any type of AC or DC coupled solar.
So what does a system like that cost, and how can I tell if it's saving me money?
Well, it's really easy because let's say that system is installed and it's $12,000 installed. Okay, basically, every single day how many hours you're gonna be off the grid. You know how much you've been consuming during that period of time, right? And it's just a calculation around how long takes itself to pay back based on how much energy that home is using.
What's typical?
It basically is, 5 to 6 years. Yeah. And then after that, right, it's just generating money for you because you're again off the utility. And again, this is not all about being disconnected from the utility grid. This is just trying to offload the utility grid. And the coolest thing that's happening is all the utilities are looking at variable rate pricing. Okay? So in California right now, this is very popular. In California right now, there's variable rate pricing, right? So normally 15 cents a kilowatt, right? But at 4 p.m, it goes up to 58 cents a kilowatt. So my system there, right? Guess when the battery goes on? At 4 p.m, right? To take advantage of variable rate pricing. And the utilities are coming up with great incentives for businesses and residential homeowners to take advantage of that. But my point is that you need a system to do that. You're not going to be able to do that manually. This is, anyone seen one of these Ford Lightnings? Yeah? Okay, so that stack of equipment I showed you basically had 20 kWh of battery backup, okay? 20 kWh. This has 120 kWh of battery backup. kWh is just a measure of depth of battery storage, so length of battery. So the more kWh, the more battery storage you have, the longer you can run things on. The other cool thing about this vehicle, it's got a two-way capability, so it can discharge power and it can be charged as well. So the future basically is a combination of battery and EVs at homes to offload the grid. Now, somebody asked me in my last presentation, do I get a tax credit? Right? And the tax credit is only available if it's stationary battery, but if you just had that without wheels, yeah, you would. Yes, sir.
What about hackers?
What?
What about hackers? You go over the internet, so what about hacking into the system?
Oh, yeah. There's my IT guy right back there. Yeah, it is always a phenomenon. I mean, we are constantly dealing with, pinhole leaks, IoT detection, all that kind of stuff. But our strategy basically is we partner with our main technology partner that runs our main computer manufacturer we run everything on is Apple. Right? So we use the Apple technology, right? And we use that Apple technology to run the whole home or the building on because it's got that operating system is Unix-like, okay? So it's very very resilient, but the security capabilities on that. So we partnered with them, for the delivery of this. Our software is actually imaged on that Mac OS. But
the other thing you can do is you can hire a service to monitor and manage your assets or IoT devices in your infrastructure to make sure that if there's bad actors in your environment or other east-west traffic, you can detect it, neutralize it, contain it, and even resolve it. So that would be an additional service from another provider to overlay into your whole organization to manage that security.
yeah, in both Cisco and Juniper have, we use both. They have great technology that is aware of everything that's going on. So it's kind of like the watchdog in a way from a wireless, somebody's trying to come in. It's giving you kind of constant analytics and notifications on, attacks on the network, who's trying to get on, who's trying to get off. And that's all being driven from an AI perspective.
And that would be a full managed service, right, to ensure that you're secure, right, with that business model.
How many of the current cars are bidirectional in terms of?
Only two. Yeah.
Which ones?
It's this, and I think the What?
Hyundai.
Hyundai? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to hook my Boston's Tesla up to our phone bank,
Yeah.
but.
So that's all I got. Questions?
Great question.
Yep.
What's the life cycle of one of those batteries?
Oh, excellent question. Basically, radial life cycle right now is about 15,000 cycles. Okay, so somebody divide 15,000 by 365 days. You know, because I want to use that battery. I want to cycle that battery every day. What is that? 17 years? What? 15,000 divided by 365. Come on, somebody in the back.
15 times 345.
Anyone know? Anyway, so it's about 15 years. So again, remember, it's not, those solar panels are warranted now to produce at 100% for 25 years. Battery's not quite there yet.
And we're confused in the back about the batteries. We thought you were saying lifeboat, but you were saying LifePo.
LifePo, yeah, LifePo 4. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So your company comes to a residential owner to consult, how do you, to coordinate? We've got lots of pieces, but none of them are connected in our home.
Yeah.
We really want to do what you're laying out here.
Yeah.
So what's the process?
Yeah, so basically, Savant works in kind of two modes. So what's your name?
Jane Wolf.
No, Gene Martin, and your name?
My name?
Yep.
Dan Collins.
Dan has an integration company for enterprise-based projects, all focused on IT. There's integration companies that we work with, both residential and commercial, that basically come and install our technology, pull it all together. And then Savant does that as well. We basically do turnkey projects. So basically, you get a design, you get a quote, we manage the installation. There's permitting that has to be done for some of this technology in the home, and we deliver that turnkey. Yes, sir.
She's got a question. Go ahead, everybody ask one.
Are you taking into account the net metering credit rates when you're calculating the battery payback? I think I've heard that it's almost not worth discharging your battery because if you just put the excess solar back onto the grid, then you're getting the full, nearly the full electric rate.
That's a great observation, and it really just comes down to what is happening in that local market. There's opportunities to do that where the utility is really giving you a good incentive, and then more and more utilities are not. So that's why you're going to see this take off in battery. So you want to have that battery there to discharge, because, and again, it's very utility specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I've seen this, like, you see this market for the homeowner with the new home, new construction, or for existing?
No, both.
Both, you don't see a difference?
No. Again, it's just like it's just like retrofitting, putting a generator into an existing home. This is the same. What do you think?
It's cool.
Cool.
Just as a comment, generators can do the whole home, ours does.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
don't have to leave off your coffee.
No, they right. I think, yeah, I'm not, there's use cases for generators, absolutely. My point is that I never fired off my generator every day at 4 o'clock to take my home off the grid to save money.
Yeah.
It just logically, the generator is not built to do that.
Yeah, no, I was just
Yeah.
reacting to you. It sounded like you couldn't do your.
Oh, no, you can, absolutely can. But again, that's a really big generator.
Yeah.
Right. The whole idea here is to be more efficient. So by managing the amount of load, right, at the home and what it's asking for from the generator or from the renewable source, you have a much more economic solution, and that's how you drive this quicker payback.
Yeah, what I would be concerned about, and I'm sure you have an answer, is that, we've been on the generator at times 4 days. I recall was probably the longest.
Yeah.
Do the batteries hold out that long?
Well, the batteries discharge, right, and they'll go down to, I think they're set up to only go down to 10%, and they're powered up the next day by the sun.
Not in those 4 days. Because well, there've been two storms. There was one in the fall
Yeah.
when the leaves were still on the trees that took them down.
Yeah.
And then there was one during the winter in the snow.
Yeah, well, and there's absolutely certain scenarios where, hey, that's why you want to have a generator. So the generator basically is there for, let's say your renewable thing is the system that you run every day. right? And you run it as long as you can during the power outage, and then you'd have a generator take over. Or we did a home in Northern California, and this home was where it was built. They were just having constant brownouts, terrible power issues up in this home, and the homeowner basically said, "Hey, I want to make sure that for 24 hours I can run my home without a worry." And all we did was add additional battery capacity.
I had a similar problem with your coffee maker. We had like 4 small blackouts on the Cape, and our generator started 4 times, but the battery in the generator to start it took grid power, not generator power. So on the 4th try, the generator wouldn't start up because it didn't have a battery to start it up, so I had to jump start it with my car.
Yes, ma'am.
I hate to do this, but from a consumer perspective, this is in your favor, by the way. If anybody's talking to Tesla about the solar panels, the roof shingles, please reach out to me. We've been 18 months into a project with them.
Yeah.
It's been horrific.
We ordered solar panels for that home I was telling you about 5 years ago.
Well, we have it installed, but it was an 18-month project.
Okay.
3 different versions, terrible customer service.
Yeah.
And they're looking for us to pay the whole price right now. We've escalated. I've gone on social media. They don't care. They are not ready in this area. I
Yeah.
hate to do this, but they've earned it. I've worked with them for 18 months to try to solve this.
Yeah. They're nice looking.
It's a beautiful It looks nice, but it was
What specifically are you having issues with? Is it the roof or is it the battery? Because someone
Same.
works for me as having the same
haven't called me.
issue, but it's battery related.
Haven't called. I'm gonna be the scoop here. But they're also not ready on the Cape, which is, the primary, the contractors were terrible. You don't even want to hear my chronology, but just a word to the wise.
Yep. Sean.
J.C., thank you. Really enjoyed your presentation.
You're welcome.
As we were talking earlier, I work in the marine industry, and I think that what I really got out of your talk was, I never heard it quite phrased this way, but you compared power to edge computing, and then how, the closer we bring compute power to the edge, is that we got to rethink of how we're going to bring that power to the edge, and then the ultimate of that would be working in the industry that I work on, having generators and batteries on board vessels. We create our own power, and I see that tech. A lot of the stuff that you've talked about, the tech that I've been involved in and then seeing developed is nice to see that it's trickling down or spilling over into this sphere. But again, just more of a comment, anything, let's of rethinking how we think about power rather than one big centralized unit is bringing that power to the edge. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, and to your comment about, there's all this technology, who pulls it together, and we want to be a good partner locally, and so basically we've got a professional service team. Anybody, please, kind of reach out to our folks, can kind of, not only educate, but provide materials to get smarter on stuff.
JC, I was going to ask that. So
Yeah.
what would the best first step for a consumer be? To reach out to Savant or one of these integrators?
No, reach out to us. We've got, we support, we've got 2.9 million smart homes kind of installed with stuff. We've got a good support infrastructure in place to handle volume. Yes, sir.
One of the things that's inherently has to happen is the system has to be aware of what the load is and the criticality of that load.
Yep.
How does it handle that? I mean, if I plug in,
Great.
somebody's visiting and has an oxygen
Yeah.
generator,
Yep. Oh,
how would the system react, or could you make it?
So this module, there's a circuit breaker, and this module goes in parallel to that circuit breaker. It handles 2 loads, and it's labeled, it's got a graphic user interface right on the front of it, right? And it comes up through the app. So basically, when you deploy it, you name all of what those loads are, and you basically set up your load schedule in terms of what's in eco mode. It knows what to do. In storm mode, it knows what to do. And then in power outage mode, basically it knows, and it wouldn't turn off a CPAP machine, right? Or a piece of medical equipment that was in the home, taking care of an elderly grandparent, and it's just set up that way. Yeah, and that's the whole idea. It's just, look at that circuit breaker panel, and we're trying to just make that super intelligent and give visibility to those loads in terms of how much energy it's consuming, but also the ability to shed it and turn it off.
Is there any projection that someday devices might intelligently communicate and say, I need this and here's why?
100%. So we're working just because of our ownership of GE Lighting. We have counterparts at GE Appliances, right? And GE Appliances and other appliance companies, but I just know these guys and gals. They are working on really the whole idea of smart appliances asking for what it needs as well, and that's going to be kind of the next phase of this. Yes, sir.
I've been on this search for a little while because I find it really interesting on the modernization. We're talking about the grid and going distributing to the edge. Have you seen any trends with like thermal batteries? I hear a lot of people, some people in some circles are referring to say like a water heater as a thermal battery because you have to put all the energy into that, from electricity, and some of these larger facilities and stuff have to have an infrastructure where you could, maybe we'll see a trend where they're modernizing some of that into the same sort of grid.
Yeah. So I mentioned it earlier. So we're in a pilot out in the Midwest. This utility basically has a tremendous amount of wind power generation, but wind's not blowing all the time. But when it's blowing, they want to push that energy for free to businesses and homes. Okay. And we're using this load management capability to do exactly that. We're basically we're superheating the hot water heaters. We're using a GE hot water heater appliance to talk to it. So that water heater becomes your energy storage, right? Just like a battery. So that is real. That's happening right now, and they're working on programs of how to roll that out. Yep. Yeah. Yes, sir.
With the batteries and the eventual needing to replace them because they can't
Yep.
charge, do you guys have a particular program you're doing, or do you recycling?
We're using it. There's all types of third-party companies now that are making businesses out of doing that for the automotive industry, and that's the ones that we're working with locally. Yeah.
With the hot water heaters, did you like load shaping too, or like you take a shower in the morning and then run it at night?
Haven't seen that. That's a good idea, though. No, I mean,
The IT modeling.
that's right. Yeah, so I my information will be posted somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, and please reach out to me, and I can get you in touch with smarter people that can help you out on stuff that you're interested in. And we've got a lot of education material that we can also make available.
Fantastic. J.C., thank you.